Okay. So moving forward here, and this, I was looking at this while you were talking, and I was like, okay, I don't want to give you way too much to unpack. So try to break this into like a two-parter. So, what would you say to someone who thinks that you're doing the podcast just for something to do? Someone who maybe isn't invested in this, who hasn't really taken the time to listen or watch, someone on the outside who's like, oh, he's just doing that for whatever, it's not really going to go anywhere. What would you say to someone like that?
First time I've had that question, so good one. But I guess what I would say is that if I was just doing this for fun, I probably still wouldn't be. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. But if I was just doing it because I was bored, I probably still wouldn't be doing it. And that's where I think, like it's this sense of purpose that kind of comes along with it. Like I kind of talked about earlier, like I want to provide somewhere for people like me a year ago to go. And I want to be able to help people like that, like talking about that vision and stuff that I mentioned earlier, like that image, that vision, like nags at me. And it's something that I do think about, like whether I want to or not, almost constantly. And it's something that I desperately want to achieve. And if I don't, I'm going to live in regret. And that's not what I want. So, I guess to that person that I have never actually spoke to that person, I would say that, no matter what I say, you're going to think what you want and you can hate if you want, but, it is more than that to me. And my plan is to, stick around and continue to ride this out and, build it as much as we can.
Going off of that, what does this platform mean to you? No matter how big or how small, where do you want to keep this podcast going? Like what is the future of where this is going to go and what this could turn into?
Yeah. So I think for me, like, I mean, kind of no matter how small we are right now, it's just extremely important to me that I really want to help people that have been in the position that I was. I really want to help the me, just a little bit over a year ago, like we talked about earlier. Like because I didn't have anybody like that at that time. I remember desperately searching for any sort of resource that could help me kind of find some sense of direction as far as like where I needed to go and what I needed to do to achieve that vision that I had. But like I said, like, no matter how small, like I want to be that resource for somebody. If I can help one person, I'm happy. That's where, like, we've had a few other young entrepreneurs recently on this show, and just in being able to talk with them, like it just gets me fired up. And that's where, like, you got to find those little things. Like I know you and I have talked, on this before, like you got to find those little things that kind of set your soul on fire. I think that's usually the phrase that you like to use. But and for me, that's being like a resource for anybody going through a quote unquote ground zero moment where you don't know what to do. I mean, and like obviously that can hit in many different shapes and sizes and situations where you just don't know precisely how to navigate that at the moment, but none of us do. And that's where I really want to kind of break that down and, provide, a voice of someone that understands that. And like, yeah, it might sound silly, but yeah, for me, that world shattering thing was because I had to quit playing basketball. Like, yeah, I'm sorry that might sound a little bit weird, but that's what it was for me. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody's looks different, but like I said, I want to be that voice that understands that, can help them figure out their next best move, their next best choice, whether that be just finding a mentor or whether they have to get over something internally first or quit talking to people externally that don't believe in what they're trying to achieve, whatever that looks like. I mean, but also bringing on other people where it's not just me kind of rambling about my personal story and not just me, you know, talking about the things that I've done. Like I'm bringing on other people that have been through it too, other people that have done it, other people that have had ground zero moments and made it to the other side. People that can share the blueprint per se that they use to get to their current level of success. And like I said, that might not be massive, but at least you're ahead of where you were. And really not all of us can say that. So that's where I said, like, really the impact right now, no matter how small, is where, I kind of find some joy. And like I just want my content, I guess you could say, to kind of provide that sense of community as well, where like, no, you might not know anybody personally, but at the same time, like I think about just every person I've had as well as the interviewees that you've had on the show so far, is somebody you could reach out to and ask questions if you wanted to. And I don't know how many of you have, but if you haven't, you should, especially if you related to anything that they said. But the point is that, like, despite that fact, that it brings that sense of community, that these people understand me. And I didn't have that. That I remember desperately searching, I mean, for hours a day, just saying there has to be somebody else out there that understands what I'm going through right now and can help me. Like, there has to be somebody out there, but like, I really never found it. And maybe there is, and I just never found it. But point being, it didn't come to me. So, like I said, the biggest thing is, and kind of touching back on where this all came from, is like, I wanted to help. I wanted to be that resource that I never had. And, the kid with all the dreams in the world, but just no clue on how to turn that into reality. And, I want to help other kids like that find clarity. I want to help them learn. And even in some instances, implement change, because, some of us do need to make changes to the habits that we have right now, and the behaviors, or even our friend groups, or the people that we talk to. Maybe we have toxic mentors or family members or anything like that. And, that's all part of it. But like, like, as I said, whether that be lifestyle, community, internal beliefs, external beliefs, like, I want to help be that voice for somebody. And whether that's mine or somebody that I'm interviewing or not, I don't care. But I want somebody to have that opportunity to hear from someone who understands that, they can stop playing small, that they can find that, mentor for them that can help them take it to the next level. Not to keep using Adam's key phrase there, but and there are small habits that you can implement that can propel you to turning that place in your mind into a reality in your life. And I mean, as far as actionability goes for, the future, I mean, I've been doing tons and tons of research recently. I mean, aside from schoolwork, as much as I can, but on just how to increase, my reach a little bit, like with the interviews, as well as like other types of content that I may be able to start, producing that can, increase my reach. But like, as a, like, somebody has to put in the work. And, a couple of, like, kind of bouncing off some of the things that we mentioned earlier, is that nobody's really going to do it for you. And, I have been doing this for a long time now. And, somebody might say that I'm just doing it for something to do, but that is not the case, because I am really starting to put in the research as far as like the work actually goes, to how I can, I don't know why I can't think of any other phrase today, but take it to the next level. Why I can.
It's perfect for the end of the year. I'm happy.
Yeah. But as to how I can really kind of take oh my gosh, I almost said it again. How I really can kick this into a new gear, and, how I may be able to, look and sound more professional. I mean, as far as just little things that I can do to just kind of like, in the eyes of the viewer, increase my presence, and, just look and sound, more professional, as I said. But as I said, I've been doing tons of research, and, as far as like, I'm super, super excited, because like, there's a lot of stuff that I kind of have cooking up here right now, that I don't want to like really get into right now, because that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I am really excited to start moving some of these things forward, kind of post holidays and going into the
I
new
know about
year.
this, because now I'm intrigued. Is this stuff like, are you not telling me something?
I mean, more than everybody else, but
I'm like, any new ideas that I missed over Thanksgiving break?
but yeah, as of right now, I'm primarily just trying to make sure my grades don't slip going into finals, and really making sure to finish the semester strong before kind of shifting a focus back into growth and development. But I think that pretty much answers your question. I think.
Okay. So something that you say often, and through all of my editing for you and everything now, I've noticed that you do say this quite a bit on other episodes, but it's the one thing that stuck with me from day one. So what this is the best way to add to your life is to remove things from it. I'd like, if you could trademark that whole thing, I feel like that is yours. So give us an example of this in play for you, where you're at right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, a quite glaring example that I can give you is the story that I've told so far. And not to just continue to go back to that, I can try to provide another example as well. But for me, I can honestly tell you, looking back now, that I had to lose basketball. And at the time I didn't want to. I wanted no business with quitting playing basketball. But I can also tell you that had I never done that, I never would have achieved. I mean, I not necessarily achieved, but I never would have saw or even found any of the opportunities that have come my way since then. And since then, I mean, the path that I'm on now is so much more aligned with what I truly wanted out of my life than even what I thought then. And that's where, you know, this saying kind of comes in. The best way to add to your life is to subtract from your life. And honestly, I forget where I heard that first, but I do use it a lot. Um, and yeah, I think for me, that is really one of the things that I've tried to implement the most, as far as like, you can only hold so much on your plate. And you have to, like, especially if you're trying to, you know, achieve some level of professional growth, or, you know, whatever that looks like, whether that be within a job or not, you have to make sure that what's on your plate is helping you get to that point, is helping you to achieve that vision. You have to make sure that whether that be family or friends or whatever, that that they're bringing you up as well, and they're behind you, supporting, you know, that vision per se. But yeah, for me, especially right now, I kind of have had to clear a lot of the things from my plate, where I can tell you that, like, I'm not a huge fan of school, but I'm so close, and I'm really just trying to finish this degree strong. So that I really kind of have had to kind of, you know, lessen my responsibilities as far as things go. Because I was always a kid that I had a lot of different things going on, especially with, you know, Adam connecting me to numerous different people across multiple different industries of, you know, opportunities that present themselves to either work with some other people or kind of get my foot in the door somewhere. Even just small little responsibilities that, you know, like, one, you can put on the resume, but also two, like, just building experience for whatever that position looks like in the future. And I really have had to kind of take a step back from a lot of that stuff. I mean, not because school is the most important thing to me, but because I did make a commitment to it, and I do want to finish strong and, you know, positively. And there's no kind of reason to quit now. And that's definitely not what I'm doing. But anyway, um, where I have had to kind of take a step back from a lot of different things that I was doing, say, over the summer, and kind of put some different things on the back burner to make sure that I have the time and energy, especially to kind of devote to, you know, making sure that, you know, I'm putting the time in the classroom.
Yeah. So something that we said earlier in the interview that I've loved from day one is that you're going to have multiple ground zero moments, because that to me is where I relate. I can think of so many in my life. And even like right now, you know, just because I graduated earlier this year doesn't mean that I have everything together. And I'm still going through times now, you know, that I'm unsure of what that next step looks like. So for you, have you had a ground zero moment through this experience of having the podcast? And I'm talking maybe like last 6 months, or maybe even just the fall semester, but just much more current. If you've had a ground zero moment at all with all the balance of everything, what does that look like for you, and how do you think someone could learn from that from you?
Yeah, for sure. So for anybody that's close to me listening, a lot of you do kind of know what went down, but for those of you who don't, we're about to get into it. So yeah, kind of bouncing back on a couple of different things we mentioned already, is that once I kind of realized this vision and started the podcast and things, I was kind of all gung ho, as far as, like, I was all about making things happen. And I was kind of hell bent on success, I guess you could say. And kind of, I don't want to say forgot about, like, other priorities, but like I said, I made some sacrifices, and I really put myself in some situations that kind of forced me to try to realize those levels of success that I wanted. But around mid-August, we hit a pretty big roadblock. Both of us did, actually. But for me, no, end of July. Anyway, sorry, I got my timelines mixed up a little bit. But anyways, what that was for me is right about that time, my grandfather got really sick. And um, I remember that morning, you and I were actually supposed to I don't remember if we were supposed to record something, but I know you and I were literally on a Zoom call at the time that I got the text from my dad that more or less said, like, hey man, I know you're busy, but if you want to see him again, you pretty much need to get over here right now. And if any of you have ever received one of those texts, then you know what I mean. But at that moment, the world pretty much stopped. And, obviously you and I more or less put what we had on pause. And then I got over there. But, I'll kind of skip some of the details there that, he wasn't with us very much longer. And I did get to see him before he went. But yeah, I would say that was my next biggest ground zero moment, we'll call it, because he was always there. I mean, from the time that I was born, he was always there. Every game, every, sporting event, like all of it. And then all of a sudden he was gone. And, it's just realizing that was very difficult. And I think after that time, I just really wanted to take a break, where luckily you and I had kind of been grinding and we had a lot of different episodes kind of in the pipeline already. So I was kind of able to take a little step back from, recording at the time and kind of just spend some time with family. And, I can honestly say that wrecked a lot of different things that I had going on. But at the same time, that's where I wanted to be right then. And I wouldn't change it. And, I know I'll get back to some of those things eventually. Some of them I haven't yet, but as of right now, I'm still kind of bouncing back from that and kind of getting back to where I was. But at the same time, I'm a little bit more careful now as to like where I was, you kind of understand what I mean there. But like I want to make sure that I don't lose any of that focus as well, because I know how important my family was to me, and I feel like that momentarily I kind of lost sight of that. So yeah, sorry, not to kind of change the entire tone of the interview on everybody, but that was a big thing for me, and I lost a lot of momentum as far as things that I had planned. But it was something that I had to learn from, and it was something that I really hadn't had to deal with yet. Like like the ground zero moment from basketball was one thing, but this was a different kind of loss. And, it was something that, as I said, I hadn't had to deal with to that point yet. So it was a learning experience. And, obviously I'm not hoping to have to deal with that again, but either way, it was something that, we had to work around. And, luckily we all made it through it. Obviously I miss him every day, but we do have to keep moving. And I think that is some of where we are now, that he helped me realize a lot of, it doesn't necessarily matter what you get done today, but get something done type of thing. Like, I know that's not the best wording, but like kind of even no matter how small, like be better than yesterday.
So I actually didn't have any more questions, and I didn't know where this was going to go. And something that I would love to ask now, just as we start winding this down, is in those moments of trying to be loyal to yourself in a more personal way than in a professional way, where you kind of have to let those things go and take the time and focus on you, which I know can be so hard for people who have the mindset to want to run a business and take on the world and do all these fantastic things. Like you said, it's really easy to lose yourself and lose sight of where you're at, what you're doing, and really feel like, I think really feel that ground zero and those low moments. So what do you do for yourself to kind of bring you back to center, or even just get you inspired? And I don't really want to say like back on track, because getting back on track in business and all of that isn't the focus, but just more of like remembering who you are, what inspires you, what makes you feel excited about the things you want to do, whether that's maybe listening to another podcast, if you have any book recommendations, songs, speakers, anything. What are some of those recommendations from you?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from these interviews and kind of on my journey so far, I learned from Jason Ricks. Shout out to him. And I don't remember, no, it was not the title of his episode, but it was one of the biggest things. And it was just quiet your mind and sit in it. And I know I've mentioned that to you before. And I do believe we've mentioned it on the show before, but I hadn't really thought about it until he mentioned it that way and explained it as he did. But more or less what that means is more or less whatever you're going through, face it, embrace it. Like literally, so many problems can be solved if you just kind of eliminate the clutter and just stare right into whatever it is that's causing you that pain, that whether that be something that is actually causing you pain or something that is really just kind of halting your productivity at the time, kind of whatever that looks like. But like, I know it sucks and I know it's the last thing you want to do in those moments, but you really do just kind of have to, excuse me, stare right into that and you'll be the better for it. But you really have to feel it. You have to embrace it, like let that pain in a way consume you at the moment so that you can move past it. And in doing that, you have to ask yourself questions as to why you're experiencing it. What can I do, from here to, move on? How can, like, what can I do right now? Like, and if no one else is going to ask you those questions, if some of us do have a great support system where, you can ask family, you can talk, you can have those conversations, but if not, you do have to ask yourself, like, what can I do now? Where do I go? Where is my head right now? Why do I feel this way? Little things like that. And you have to, answer them honestly. Say, like, I'm in pain right now and I don't want to work on these things, but what do I do about it? Little things like that. And, just truly dig in. I mean, like, don't leave any stone unturned. And and dig into every little bit of that and allow yourself to acknowledge it and then move past it. And, distractions don't solve real problems. And that's where, I've come to realize, like, especially in a moment like that, like I needed to take that step back and I needed time to process that. And I needed time to, really kind of let myself get through that. Where then, as you mentioned, kind of getting back on track, you kind of just have to, for me, I kind of just had to let that itch kind of work its way back, where I had to take the time to, obviously work through those things. And then, I spent some time with family. I worked on some other things, and I'm not saying just simply as distractions, because as I said, those don't work. But in taking that time away, I let that drive come back to, reminded myself of where I was before, as what I'm working towards, where I want to go. Continue to remind yourself of that vision and what you want to achieve. Keep that in mind. Now, it's okay to put that aside for a moment to face whatever that thing is, but don't lose your vision and don't let that slip, because that is where that's your purpose. That's what you're holding on to. Don't lose that. That is the biggest part I will tell you, is just don't lose that. Don't worry about, a cloud or attention or any of those other things. Don't lose your purpose, because that is what either takes you to a life of success or a life of regret. And I know which one weighs an awful lot more. So definitely, as I said, don't lose that, and make sure that, take your time. It's okay, to take a step back, but, don't lose don't lose what's most important to you in what you think is most important to other people.
Very powerful. So switching gears just a little bit, maybe even a little bit of a lighter mood. Um, where does Aaron Iler see himself at graduation? What are your plans for after graduating?
Yeah, so right now I'm contemplating a couple of different things. One, I don't know if I want to pursue my education further or not. That is a possibility. And it is something that I'm leaning towards, but I also haven't completely made up my mind. But but yeah, so that is a possibility where I am thinking about pursuing a master's degree. And, I am excited for that. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of school, but it is something that I do think I want to accomplish for myself. And, that's where I'm leaning towards that. And yeah, it sucks, but it is kind of what it is. And we kind of got to get through it and, you know, put in the time. But as far as otherwise or simultaneously, as of right now, I'm poised to join, what looks like a really great company and, help out a guy that I even consider a close friend now that has helped me numerous different times along this journey. I've had, 2 or 3 different phone calls with him at different points in time, kind of along this way that he really helped me to, make sure that I was on the right trajectory. Um, and, kind of help me process some different things. So, as I said, I'm poised to join a really great team there. Really looking to diving into a few different things for him as well after the first of the year. And another great part about that is it looks like I will still be working alongside my wonderful co-host. So, definitely excited to continue to see where that goes as you and I have definitely become really close over, a lot of these different things and sharing a lot of different experiences as well. And really just learning a lot about each other as far as like, we come from complete different worlds, but there's still so much that we have in common and that we can really bring that together into the same, vision, I guess you could say. But yeah, so I'm definitely really excited to see where that goes. But yeah, I think those are pretty much my options right now. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does.
Cool.
Um, Honestly, I don't have anything else. That's really from top to bottom what I felt would be really great questions for the listeners and viewers to get to know much more of your personal backstory and where the podcast comes from and the why for why it's here. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me because honestly, I feel like you've been hard to get a hold of these last couple weeks because of school and everything. So I know it's like the craziest time between like the end of Thanksgiving break and Christmas break. Like you probably have so much work to do right now, but I'm glad that we could do this. And I think that this is so cool for the end of the year and a great way to look back and wrap it up. And I'd be excited to do this again next year just for fun to hop back on and do another like check-in with like where you're at. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad that we got the opportunity to kind of dive into some things as well. I do hope this helps some of you guys get a little bit more of an understanding as well as I'm struggling with the word again, but to feel a little bit more connected to me, I guess, as far as like where I came from and what this is all about. As I said, I'm definitely happy that we got the opportunity here, and I know you and I have been cooking up this kind of idea for a long time now, but I think that really this was kind of the perfect time for it as well. I know we have a little bit more coming your way for the rest of the month here with April, but I won't share too much on that just yet. But yeah, so I'm super excited for this to get out. I really do hope that this helps kind of bring you guys a little bit closer to me. And, I'm just really excited to kind of see where everything goes from here.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, I'll do my own closing. Thank you guys so much. I mean, I do apologize if this one was a little bit longer today. And I do apologize for some parts getting a little dull, even dark. I do apologize for all those things, but I feel like transparency is one of the biggest things that I want to kind of, what's the word? Embrace here and be, very authentic about where we are and where we came from. So I do apologize for those things. And for those of you who stuck with us, thank you so much. I really appreciate it more than you guys know. But with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up this special edition episode here. Thank you guys so much again. Always remember, this is Dream Chasers Ground Zero, and there's nowhere to go from here but up. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.